During the Second World War, as Allied forces prepared for the largest amphibious invasion in history, the success of D-Day depended not only on sheer numbers of troops and material but also on a carefully orchestrated campaign of misinformation and deception. At the heart of this invisible war was Britain's double-cross system, a sophisticated network of spies, double agents, and counterintelligence operatives run by MI5. These men and women worked in secret to feed false information to the Germans, ensuring that the enemy misjudged the location, timing, and scale of the invasion, and in doing so, saved countless lives. The double-cross system was built upon a deceptively simple premise: turn captured German agents into loyal informants, controlling the flow of information back to Berlin. Each agent was carefully monitored and directed to deliver intelligence that appeared authentic yet subtly misled German commanders. Some of the most famous operatives included Juan Pujol García, codenamed Garbo, who developed an intricate network of fictitious subagents across Britain, and Roman Czerniawski, who worked under the codename Brutus. Together, these agents became instruments of deception, sending reports that convinced the Germans that the Allies had different plans than the ones actually in motion. Every report produced by the double-cross system was meticulously crafted to align with German expectations while concealing the truth. Agents sent seemingly plausible intelligence, detailing troop movements, supply buildups, and invasion plans in areas far from Normandy. The Germans, desperate for accurate information about Allied operations, trusted these agents implicitly, unaware that they were feeding on carefully constructed lies. Over time, these misdirections became part of a broader campaign known as Operation Fortitude, designed to convince the Germans that the main invasion would occur at Pas-de-Calais rather than Normandy. The success of the system relied not only on intelligence and cunning but also on psychological insight. Agents studied German behaviors, preferences, and operational habits, tailoring their messages to maximize credibility. Reports included both accurate and fabricated details, creating a carefully layered illusion. Some messages deliberately included minor errors or delayed reports, designed to enhance authenticity. Each double agent became a master storyteller, balancing truth and falsehood to manipulate perception at the highest levels of German command. The double-cross system's impact on D-Day was profound. By convincing German generals that Normandy was a diversion rather than the main attack, the Allies ensured that many of Germany's best units remained far from the beaches on June 6, 1944. This misallocation of forces reduced resistance during the initial landings, allowing Allied troops to establish beachheads and advance inland with fewer casualties than might otherwise have occurred. In this sense, deception became a weapon as critical as artillery, tanks, and naval bombardments. Life for the agents of the double-cross system was perilous, despite the secrecy of their work. Many operated in occupied Europe before being captured and coerced into service, walking a fine line between collaboration and subterfuge. Others worked in Britain under constant scrutiny, knowing that any misstep could lead to exposure and execution. Yet, their courage and ingenuity ensured that the flow of disinformation remained credible and continuous. Agents maintained elaborate backstories, fictitious networks of contacts, and simulated operations to maintain the illusion of authenticity. MI5 officers coordinated this vast network from London, analyzing reports, tracking agent behavior, and carefully directing each message to align with Allied strategic objectives. The success of the double-cross system required unprecedented levels of organization, trust, and precision, as any discrepancy could compromise the entire deception campaign. The operation became a testament to the power of human ingenuity and intelligence in warfare, demonstrating that information could shape battlefields as profoundly as physical forces. In the weeks and months leading up to D-Day, the Germans were bombarded with a continuous stream of reports detailing phantom armies, feigned supply movements, and purported invasion preparations in locations far from Normandy. The deception was so effective that German commanders maintained significant forces at Pas-de-Calais even after the Normandy landings were underway, convinced that the true assault had not yet begun. By controlling enemy perception, the double-cross system created a strategic advantage that reduced Allied casualties, expedited progress inland, and contributed to the ultimate success of Operation Overlord. The legacy of the double-cross system endures not only in historical records but also in modern intelligence practice. Its agents demonstrated how psychological manipulation, careful observation, and the art of storytelling could alter the course of warfare. Today, the system is celebrated as one of the most sophisticated and successful counterintelligence operations in history, a network where lies became weapons and the cunning of a few saved thousands of lives. Among the most remarkable figures of the double-cross system was Juan Pujol García, codenamed Garbo. Before the war, he had been a civil engineer and a minor clerk in Barcelona, with no formal intelligence training. Yet his determination and ingenuity allowed him to craft an elaborate network of fictitious sub-agents across Britain, each assigned a specific region, personality, and mission. Through letters, radio transmissions, and reports, Garbo fed the Germans a mixture of truth, exaggeration, and fabrication, creating an illusion of a sprawling espionage network. Each detail was carefully considered. Weather conditions, troop movements, and even local gossip were woven into his messages to enhance credibility. The Germans, desperate for intelligence, trusted Garbo implicitly, never suspecting that his entire network was imaginary. Similarly, Roman Czerniawski, or Brutus, operated from occupied Europe and later from Britain, providing Germany with intelligence that was deliberately skewed to mislead. Czerniawski's operations focused on creating a sense of imminent invasion in locations other than Normandy. His reports suggested troop buildups, amphibious training exercises, and mock landing craft along the Pas-de-Calais coastline. Combined with Garbo's network, these deceptions painted a convincing picture of Allied intentions that drew German attention away from the true invasion site. The process of feeding false information required meticulous planning. MI5 officers in London carefully coordinated each transmission, analyzing the potential German interpretations. Agents were given scripts, instructions, and sometimes even staged photographs to reinforce their messages. For example, a routine message might report that British troops were conducting amphibious exercises in Scotland, accompanied by a photograph of soldiers unloading boats. Even small details, like the wear on boots or the type of insignia worn, were scrutinized to maintain authenticity. German intelligence, lacking access to independent verification, accepted these reports as genuine, often adjusting their own deployments based on the information. Psychology played a central role. The agents understood that Germans were more likely to believe information that aligned with their preconceived notions and fears. Reports suggested that the Allies were preparing a massive attack at Pas-de-Calais, a location that made strategic sense to the German command given its proximity to Britain. This careful alignment of deception with expectation amplified the effectiveness of every false report. It was not merely lying, it was shaping perception, guiding enemy decision-making, and creating an environment where misinformation became reality in the minds of commanders. The impact on the Normandy invasion was profound. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, German forces remained concentrated at Pas-de-Calais and elsewhere, anticipating a landing that would never occur. This allowed the Allied forces at Normandy to land with fewer obstacles, secure beachheads, and establish supply lines crucial for the advance into occupied France. Allied casualties were lower than they might have been because German reinforcements were delayed, misallocated, or held in reserve due to the false intelligence provided by the double-cross system. In operational terms, deception became a force multiplier, allowing a smaller but well-prepared force to achieve strategic objectives against a numerically superior enemy. Life for the agents, however, was far from easy. Garbo, for instance, had to maintain the illusion of danger and struggle for his fictitious network, reporting constant threats from imaginary German counterintelligence while remaining in Britain. Czerniawski faced the constant risk of being exposed or misinterpreted, operating under the scrutiny of both MI5 and German handlers. Each report had to be balanced carefully. Too little detail could arouse suspicion, too much could reveal the deception. The work required a blend of courage, creativity, and analytical skill. The system also included a feedback loop. German responses to intelligence were monitored, allowing MI5 to refine future transmissions. If a German unit moved in response to a particular report, that movement itself became the basis for new misinformation, creating a cycle of controlled manipulation. This constant adaptation ensured that the double-cross system remained credible and dynamic, capable of responding to German skepticism, new intelligence sources, or unexpected events. Beyond individual reports, the double-cross system coordinated with broader Allied deception campaigns, most notably Operation Fortitude, which encompassed both Fortitude North and Fortitude South. Fortitude North suggested a potential invasion of Norway, keeping German forces stationed in Scandinavia, while Fortitude South emphasized the threat to Pas-de-Calais. The agents of the double-cross system were integral to these operations, providing the narrative and evidence that made the broader strategic deception believable. The result was a triumph of intelligence and human ingenuity. The Germans were systematically misled about the timing, location, and scale of the invasion, while the Allies achieved the strategic surprise necessary for success. Thousands of lives were spared, and the operational tempo of D-Day proceeded with fewer complications than expected. The work of the double-cross system demonstrated that information, carefully crafted and delivered, could shape reality on the battlefield as decisively as firepower or fortifications. Even decades later, historians and intelligence experts recognize the double-cross system as one of the most successful counterintelligence operations in history. It combined human ingenuity, psychological insight, and meticulous planning to create a network of controlled deception that fundamentally altered the course of the war. The courage and creativity of agents like Garbo, Brutus, and their MI5 handlers proved that in warfare, perception can be as critical as action, and that a lie, when carefully constructed, can save thousands of lives. In the months leading up to D-Day, each double-cross agent followed a carefully orchestrated schedule of communications, designed to appear both routine and urgent. Agents like Garbo transmitted coded messages to Berlin via radio several times a week, describing troop movements, supply shipments, and supposed reconnaissance missions. To German handlers, these transmissions seemed like the product of a well-connected and courageous spy, risking exposure daily to deliver intelligence. Yet behind every message lay layers of planning by MI5, the content was pre-approved, the timing calculated to maximize impact, and the narrative crafted to reinforce the illusion of imminent invasion at Pas-de-Calais. One notable misdirection involved the movement of phantom armies. Garbo's fictitious sub-agents reported sightings of massive troop concentrations and large encampments in southeastern England, suggesting preparations for an assault across the narrowest stretch of the English Channel. Meanwhile, MI5 arranged for fake radio traffic, staged vehicle movements, and dummy encampments in those regions to corroborate the reports. German reconnaissance, observing the smoke from controlled fires, movement of trucks, and other subtle visual cues, interpreted the information as genuine. The result was a belief in the existence of a massive force ready to strike Calais, a belief that persisted even after the first Allied troops landed in Normandy. Czerniawski, operating from occupied Europe and later in London, supplemented these efforts with localized false reports, claiming that specific coastal areas were heavily defended by Allied artillery and fortified positions. German intelligence, relying on these reports, kept reserve units stationed in locations that would never see combat. The psychological impact was profound. Commanders at all levels were forced to prepare for threats that existed only in the minds of double agents. In effect, the Allies had created a parallel battlefield in the imagination of their enemy, one where strategic decisions were dictated not by reality but by carefully constructed deception. The day-to-day life of agents in Britain was a delicate balance of routine, improvisation, and performance. Garbo, for example, maintained the persona of a fearful yet resourceful operative, often describing narrow escapes from fictitious German counterintelligence patrols. MI5 arranged for supporting evidence to make these tales believable, letters, staged sightings, and controlled leaks that could be reported by independent channels. Agents needed to remember every detail of their fabricated networks, respond convincingly to unexpected inquiries, and maintain their credibility over months of intense scrutiny. Any inconsistency risked exposure, which could have catastrophic consequences both for the operation and for the agents themselves. German reactions to these deceptions were immediate and measurable. In the weeks before D-Day, military communications intercepted by Allied intelligence revealed the extent to which double agents had influenced German decision-making. Units were redeployed, supply lines extended unnecessarily, and fortifications strengthened in areas where no invasion was planned. Even after the Normandy landings commenced, German high command hesitated to reallocate forces, convinced that the main assault remained at Pas-de-Calais. This hesitation was crucial. It allowed Allied troops to secure beachheads, establish supply routes, and begin the advance inland with fewer casualties than would have been expected against fully concentrated defenses. Individual acts of ingenuity further amplified the effectiveness of the double-cross system. In one instance, an agent reported that British engineers were conducting simulated amphibious exercises along the southern coast of England, accompanied by photographs of staged landings and training sessions. German reconnaissance, viewing these images and noting the timing of supposed troop movements, interpreted them as indicators of an imminent crossing. Meanwhile, the real Allied forces were preparing quietly in southern Normandy, shielded by weather, misdirection, and operational security. Each successful deception built on the last, creating a layered network of falsehoods that guided enemy perception without exposing the truth. The cumulative effect of these operations was extraordinary. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, German units remained widely dispersed, many stationed far from Normandy, fully convinced that a larger and more dangerous landing would occur elsewhere. The Allied forces, benefiting from this confusion, were able to land troops, vehicles, and supplies with reduced resistance, establishing positions critical for the subsequent campaign through France. In operational terms, deception had become a force multiplier. The careful management of enemy perception directly translated into battlefield success and saved thousands of lives that might otherwise have been lost to concentrated German defenses. The double-cross system also served as a model for modern intelligence operations. Its agents demonstrated that human ingenuity, meticulous planning, and psychological insight could achieve results that traditional military strength alone could not. The system combined artistry with analytical rigor, requiring operatives to become storytellers, actors, and strategists simultaneously. In this way, it bridged the gap between espionage and warfare, proving that perception, carefully managed, can alter the course of history. After the success of D-Day, the double-cross system continued to monitor German reactions, ensuring that the illusion persisted long enough to support the Allied breakout from Normandy. Agents reported minor movements, false threats, and supposed reinforcements, keeping German commanders uncertain and cautious. The network's influence extended well beyond the beaches, shaping operational decisions and protecting the lives of soldiers advancing through occupied France. The bravery, creativity, and discipline of these agents ensured that deception remained a critical weapon until the liberation of Europe. While Juan Pujol García, Garbo, and Roman Czerniawski, Brutus, are among the most famous, the double-cross system encompassed dozens of agents, each contributing uniquely to the Allied deception strategy. Among them was Tadeo Nagata, a Japanese agent-turned-double operative in London, who supplied MI5 with insights into Axis espionage networks in Europe. Nagata's work involved crafting plausible reports on troop and logistical movements, which, when combined with other agents' transmissions, added layers of authenticity that German intelligence found difficult to unravel. His reports often included small, verifiable truths, supply convoys spotted in ports, minor training exercises, but always contextualized within misleading strategic narratives, reinforcing the impression of an imminent assault in locations far from Normandy. Another critical figure was Margarita de la Rosa, a Spanish-born operative who specialized in correspondence-based espionage. She maintained the illusion of a clandestine network operating within southern England, sending letters that described supposed reconnaissance and sabotage operations. MI5 carefully monitored her communications, ensuring they aligned with the broader strategic deception plan. These letters were intentionally placed to be intercepted or observed by German sympathizers, creating a visible trail of intelligence that the Germans interpreted as confirmation of other agents' reports. Margarita's contributions highlight the ingenuity of MI5. Deception was not merely about false information, but about constructing believable narratives that created the impression of an entire intelligence infrastructure. Each agent's day-to-day life was a blend of routine, performance, and constant vigilance. Garbo, for example, simulated communications with his fictitious network multiple times per week. He invented new subagents, wrote detailed reports, and even staged minor operational setbacks for these imaginary personnel, giving his transmissions a sense of realism. In one report, he described a subagent narrowly avoiding a German patrol while photographing troop movements. MI5 ensured that such stories were supported by subtle cues, timed newspaper clippings, controlled surveillance, or fabricated sightings, so that German analysts found them credible. The complexity of this web required immense attention to detail. Each lie had to be internally consistent, corroborated by other transmissions, and aligned with overall Allied strategy. German reactions to these deceptions were often dramatic. Intercepted communications indicate that high-ranking officers interpreted Garbo's messages as indicators of large troop buildups in southeastern England. Orders were issued to maintain divisions in Pas-de-Calais, delay reinforcements to Normandy, and prioritize defensive measures in areas where no actual Allied operations were planned. The psychological effect of the double-cross system extended beyond simple misdirection. It created paralysis and hesitation in German decision-making. Commanders questioned the reliability of reconnaissance yet feared to ignore the intelligence, illustrating the profound influence of controlled disinformation. MI5's coordination was meticulous. Officers managed every aspect of the system, from the timing of transmissions to the content of reports, the staging of corroborating evidence, and the monitoring of German reactions. Radio operators, cryptographers, and analysts worked in tandem, reviewing agent reports for plausibility and adjusting narratives based on new intelligence. This high level of organization ensured that the deception campaign was dynamic, able to respond to German skepticism, intercepted communications, or unexpected Allied movements. The system was a combination of art and science, psychological insight informed operational planning, and creative storytelling was integrated with rigorous intelligence analysis. As D-Day approached, the scale of the deception intensified. Agents reported troop movements, fictitious artillery placements, and simulated construction of landing craft in southeastern England. Radio traffic was deliberately increased in these regions, reinforcing the illusion of large, active units. Dummy installations, inflatable tanks, and staged training exercises provided visual confirmation. Together, these measures created a multisensory deception. Reports described movement, visual cues reinforced the narrative, and MI5 monitored German responses to refine future operations. By June 6, 1944, the Germans were convinced that the main invasion would occur at Pas-de-Calais, maintaining significant forces there even as the Normandy landings commenced. Beyond immediate strategic impact, the double-cross system also fostered a culture of innovation and collaboration among agents and MI5 officers. Agents needed to anticipate German thought processes, improvise when unexpected questions arose, and maintain credibility under extreme pressure. MI5 staff coordinated these activities across London, ensuring coherence and timing. Letters, reports, radio transmissions, and visual deceptions were all integrated, forming a comprehensive and cohesive narrative. This combination of psychology, art, and intelligence analysis allowed a relatively small number of operatives to influence enemy perception on a scale disproportionate to their numbers. The culmination of these efforts was evident on D-Day itself. German units remained dispersed, misallocated, and hesitant to engage decisively, convinced that the landings at Normandy were a diversion. Allied troops, supported by the confusion sown by the double-cross system, were able to secure beachheads, establish supply lines, and advance inland with reduced resistance. Thousands of lives were saved, and the operation set the stage for the liberation of Western Europe. The success of the deception highlighted that intelligence and information management could be as decisive as artillery, armor, and infantry. In the final weeks before June 6, 1944, MI5 intensified coordination with its network of double agents, carefully orchestrating each communication to maximize strategic impact. Each day was meticulously scheduled, agents sent radio messages at predetermined intervals, letters were accidentally discovered or intercepted, and staged movements of equipment were arranged to reinforce the narrative of impending invasion. For Juan Pujol García, codenamed Garbo, these days were filled with the creation of detailed fictional reports, updates from his imaginary subagents, and the simulation of logistical operations. Each transmission included minor, verifiable truths to enhance credibility, such as reports of real weather patterns or mundane troop exercises, interwoven with fabricated intelligence about supposed troop concentrations in southeastern England. On June 1, 1944, Garbo reported that a convoy of landing craft had been observed near Southampton, supposedly destined for a landing at Pas-de-Calais. MI5 ensured that this report coincided with visible troop movements in southern England. Trucks were routed past observation points, dummy encampments were established, and controlled smoke signals were released to simulate activity. German handlers intercepted the message and, as planned, relayed it to Berlin, reinforcing the perception that the Allies were massing for a major assault away from Normandy. Meanwhile, Roman Czerniawski, Brutus, focused on corroborating Garbo's reports with complementary transmissions. He detailed supposed reconnaissance flights, artillery placements, and engineer teams constructing mock defenses along the Pas-de-Calais coastline. Each report was carefully timed to appear independent, yet they formed a coherent narrative that misled the enemy at multiple command levels. German intelligence officers, unaware of the orchestration, adjusted deployments based on these verified accounts, keeping frontline divisions stationed in the wrong locations and delaying reinforcements that could have opposed the Normandy landings. The daily rhythm of the double-cross agents combined creativity, vigilance, and improvisation. Agents had to remember every element of their fabricated networks, respond convincingly to unexpected inquiries, and maintain internal consistency across multiple reports. Garbo would simulate crises among his imaginary subagents. One might report a near capture, another observe Allied troops practicing landings. MI5 orchestrated subtle cues to support these stories, including staged sightings by local volunteers and controlled newspaper leaks. The effectiveness of these measures relied on the Germans' assumption that espionage was dangerous, difficult, and expensive, lending credibility to the agents' claims of risk and near disasters. German reactions to the deception were precisely as intended. Commanders reported delays in reinforcing Normandy, requests for additional reconnaissance, and debates over the actual location of the Allied assault. Hitler and high-ranking officers remained convinced that Pas-de-Calais was the primary target, even after initial reports of landings in Normandy reached Berlin. This misjudgment caused hesitation in the deployment of reserves, leaving the Allies with crucial hours to establish beachheads, unload supplies, and secure positions. Thousands of Allied lives were saved because enemy forces were misdirected by a network of agents working under MI5's meticulous supervision. MI5's internal operations during this period were complex and highly secretive. Officers analyzed intercepted German communications, monitored agent transmissions, and adjusted instructions to ensure maximum effect. The system functioned as a dynamic feedback loop. The agent's messages influenced German actions, which in turn informed subsequent transmissions. For example, if a German unit moved toward Pas-de-Calais in response to a report, the next message would describe new Allied activity nearby, reinforcing the illusion. This adaptive strategy required constant analysis, rapid decision-making, and coordination across multiple departments within MI5. On June 6, 1944, the culmination of months of planning and deception reached its peak. Allied forces landed on the beaches of Normandy with reduced resistance, encountering fewer concentrated German units than anticipated. Behind the scenes, Garbo and other agents continued transmitting updates that confirmed the Germans' false beliefs. They suggested that the Normandy landings were a diversion, while the main assault would still occur at Pas-de-Calais. This sustained deception delayed German redeployment, protected the landing forces, and allowed the Allies to consolidate their positions. In the days following D-Day, the double-cross agents maintained their operations, adjusting reports to account for German observations and reactions. Garbo described continued troop movements in southeastern England, fake reinforcements, and staged military exercises. Czerniawski provided updates that appeared independent but were carefully coordinated with MI5's overall strategic narrative. The Germans, unable to reconcile their intelligence with the unfolding events in Normandy, remained cautious and dispersed, effectively neutralized by the combination of human ingenuity, psychological insight, and meticulous planning. Post-D-Day, the double-cross system shifted focus to sustaining operational security and continued deception. Agents monitored German responses to supply movements, air operations, and advancing Allied troops. MI5 officers analyzed the effectiveness of the deception in real time, making adjustments to maintain credibility and reinforce strategic objectives. The success of the system was evident not only in battlefield outcomes but also in the lives saved. By misdirecting German forces, the network directly reduced casualties and facilitated the rapid advance through occupied France. The legacy of the double-cross system is profound. It demonstrated that intelligence, perception, and strategic deception could have effects as decisive as tanks, artillery, and infantry. By blending creativity, meticulous planning, and psychological insight, the agents of MI5 created a multi-layered deception campaign that altered the course of the war. The system remains a seminal example of counterintelligence in action, where a small, disciplined network of operatives shaped enemy decision-making and saved thousands of lives through the careful orchestration of lies, ingenuity, and courage. Among the lesser-known yet vital participants in the double-cross system were female operatives, whose contributions were often invisible but indispensable. Women like Elise Varley, codenamed Fawn, and Madeleine Damerment, a courier and communications specialist, played critical roles in maintaining the flow of intelligence and reinforcing the illusion of extensive networks. Elise Varley's work involved coordinating messages from supposed sub-agents operating in northern England. She meticulously drafted reports, monitored German acknowledgements of transmissions, and provided supporting evidence through carefully staged incidents, such as intercepted letters or fabricated sightings. Her calm precision ensured that even the smallest details, dates, locations, and troop descriptions, remained consistent, preserving the credibility of the network. Madeleine Damerment operated in occupied Europe before being captured and turned into a double agent. Her assignments included transmitting seemingly authentic intelligence that misled German command about troop movements and invasion plans. Working under extreme stress, often in environments where a single mistake could lead to execution, Damerment exemplified the courage and resourcefulness of female operatives. These women not only contributed directly to strategic deception but also maintained morale within the agent network, offering guidance, reassurance, and coordination in the high-pressure environment of wartime espionage. The daily work of these operatives was fraught with challenges and close calls. Agents frequently had to improvise when German handlers asked unexpected questions or when events threatened to reveal inconsistencies. Garbo, for example, once received an urgent request from Berlin for verification of a supposedly sighted armored division. Rather than admit fabrication, he invented a story of a reconnaissance mishap and sub-agent miscommunication, sending an elaborate report that preserved credibility. MI5 officers supervised these improvisations, ensuring that each story aligned with the overall strategic plan. Such moments of quick thinking and creativity were crucial. A single exposed lie could compromise months of carefully orchestrated deception. The network also managed psychological stress in extraordinary ways. Agents were acutely aware that German intelligence was rigorous and suspicious. The pressure to remain convincing was constant. MI5 implemented a structured support system. Agents were rotated, given guidance, and sometimes staged minor setbacks to lend authenticity without endangering themselves. This balance of operational rigor and human support allowed agents to sustain high-quality deception over months, culminating in the critical period surrounding D-Day. Post-war recognition for many of these operatives came slowly. For decades, the true scale and sophistication of the double-cross system remained classified. Only in the latter half of the 20th century did historians begin to uncover the depth of its impact. Juan Pujol García received widespread acclaim, eventually being honored by both Britain and Spain, but countless other agents, including female operatives like Elise Varley and Madeleine Damerment, remained largely unrecognized publicly for their crucial contributions. Their courage, skill, and ingenuity, however, were recorded in MI5 archives and survivor testimonies, demonstrating that the system's success depended on every link in the chain, from the most celebrated spies to the quiet operatives behind the scenes. The operational legacy of the double-cross system is multifaceted. It proved that human intelligence could manipulate entire armies' decision-making processes and that perception, carefully controlled, could act as a decisive weapon. The network demonstrated how creativity, improvisation, and psychological insight could amplify the effectiveness of military strategy, saving thousands of lives in the process. The success of D-Day, facilitated in part by these carefully crafted deceptions, stands as a testament to the power of intelligence operations to alter the course of history without a single shot fired directly by the agents themselves. Even in the post-war years, lessons from the double-cross system informed modern intelligence strategies. Techniques pioneered by MI5, controlled disinformation, careful agent oversight, and multi-layered deception, became standard practices in espionage worldwide. The system illustrated the enduring principle that in war, as in peace, knowledge and perception can be as powerful as firepower, and that disciplined human ingenuity can achieve results far beyond the capabilities of conventional force. The personal stories, close calls, and quiet heroism of the double-cross agents, both men and women, form an enduring narrative of courage, creativity, and precision under pressure. They reveal a hidden battlefield where every letter, radio transmission, and staged incident carried strategic weight, shaping the outcomes of operations and saving countless lives. The legacy of this network is not only in the victories it helped achieve but in the demonstration that intelligence, artistry, and psychological acumen can decisively influence the course of history. June 1, 1944 began with a flurry of activity at MI5 headquarters in London. Officers reviewed weeks of agent reports, cross-referenced intercepted German communications, and updated operational plans to reinforce the illusion of an impending invasion at Pas-de-Calais. Juan Pujol García, Garbo, sent a morning transmission describing the movement of a fictitious armored division to southern England, noting that sub-agents reported heavy equipment being loaded onto landing craft. MI5 ensured that the report was corroborated by staged observations. Trucks were routed past vantage points, dummy encampments appeared in satellite locations, and controlled smoke signals simulated the activity of engineers constructing fortifications. German radio monitoring stations intercepted the transmission and relayed it to Berlin, where officers interpreted it as a sign of imminent assault. On June 2, Roman Czerniawski, Brutus, sent a detailed report describing reconnaissance flights over southeastern England, claiming that Allied forces were preparing multiple landing sites to confuse German defenses. MI5 analysts coordinated with him, instructing subtle additions to the message, a fictitious report of minor skirmishes with coastal patrols, a simulated report of sabotage against supply depots, and details of mock troop deployments. These enhancements ensured that the Germans remained fully convinced of the threat to Pas-de-Calais. Meanwhile, female operatives like Elise Varley monitored German reactions, noting troop movements and intelligence inquiries that indicated the deception was working. The network was functioning as a precise, multi-layered machine, each part reinforcing the next. By June 3, tension among agents increased. Garbo had to improvise when Berlin requested verification of an armored regiment spotted near Portsmouth. Rather than admit fabrication, he crafted an elaborate story. One subagent had narrowly avoided detection, another had misreported positions due to inclement weather, and the regiment was moving under cover of darkness. MI5 approved the narrative, understanding that credibility was paramount. Simultaneously, MI5 officers monitored German communications, noting orders to maintain divisions in southeastern England and hold reserves in Pas-de-Calais, a direct confirmation that the deception was effective. On June 4, Madeleine Damerment transmitted messages describing reconnaissance missions along the Normandy coastline, carefully blending truths, minor Allied patrols, with fabrications about supposed landing preparations. German intelligence, interpreting these as separate reports, reinforced their belief in the narrative that Normandy landings were a diversion. MI5 coordinated timing and content with Garbo and Brutus to ensure that all transmissions were consistent and reinforced the broader Fortitude South operation. Agents meticulously maintained backstories, subagent identities, and prior reports to avoid contradictions, a task requiring constant vigilance and mental agility. June 5, the day before the invasion, was critical. Agents increased the frequency of transmissions, heightening German anticipation of an attack elsewhere. Garbo sent a series of updates describing fictitious training exercises, supply shipments, and minor skirmishes along the southeastern coast, while MI5 staged additional dummy movements and controlled observations to corroborate his stories. Czerniawski reported that sub-agents observed troop movements from Portsmouth to Dover, confirming that Allied preparations for a main assault at Calais were ongoing. German forces, heavily concentrated in anticipation of this non-existent attack, were effectively immobilized and unable to reinforce the actual landing zones in Normandy. On June 6, D-Day itself, the double-cross agents maintained the illusion even as the first Allied troops landed on Normandy beaches. Garbo sent transmissions describing ongoing troop movements and supposed diversions, while MI5 officers monitored German responses. Reports suggested that the Normandy landings were a feint, and the main invasion would still occur at Pas-de-Calais. German commanders, believing this intelligence, delayed redeployment of their reserves, providing the Allies with crucial hours to secure beachheads and establish supply routes. Female operatives continued monitoring German activity, confirming that the deception maintained its effect. The coordination between agents, MI5, and supporting operations ensured that perception, not just force, shaped the battlefield. In the days following D-Day, June 7 to 10, the double-cross system shifted focus to sustaining operational security and further confusing German command. Garbo reported the continued presence of armored divisions in southeastern England, describing troop rotations and supposed amphibious training. Brutus sent updates claiming that reconnaissance flights had observed significant fortifications at Calais, reinforcing the illusion of a pending assault. MI5 officers adjusted content based on German radio feedback, ensuring coherence across all transmissions. The Germans, unable to reconcile the unfolding reality in Normandy with their expectations, remained cautious and hesitant to commit reinforcements, allowing Allied forces to consolidate positions and advance inland. The post-D-Day period also highlighted the adaptability of the network. When unexpected German reconnaissance flights observed real troop movements in Normandy, agents quickly fabricated explanations. These were described as diversions, small-scale exercises, or misreported sightings. MI5 coordinated these explanations to maintain credibility, demonstrating the system's ability to dynamically adjust to unforeseen events. By the end of the first week of June 1944, the double-cross system had achieved its primary objectives. German forces were misdirected, reserves held in the wrong locations, and the Allies had secured beachheads with fewer casualties than expected. The combination of detailed agent reports, staged visual cues, and psychological manipulation had created a battlefield shaped as much by perception as by physical force. This period remains one of the most remarkable examples of coordinated deception in military history, where human ingenuity, courage, and precise orchestration directly influenced the outcome of one of the most critical operations of the Second World War. Throughout the final weeks before D-Day, the double-cross system operated under constant threat. Every agent faced the possibility of exposure, which could have catastrophic consequences for the operation and for their own lives. One notable incident involved Juan Pujol García, Garbo, when a German intelligence officer demanded verification of a supposed armored regiment observed near Portsmouth. Garbo, realizing that any mistake could unravel months of careful deception, invented an elaborate narrative. One subagent had misread orders, another was delayed due to weather, and the regiment had moved under cover of darkness. MI5 quickly reviewed and approved the story, demonstrating both the agent's ingenuity and the network's capacity for rapid problem-solving. Similarly, Madeleine Damerment faced extreme pressure when her courier activities in occupied Europe nearly drew German suspicion. While delivering communications, she was stopped by patrols who questioned her about her movements. Using a combination of calm improvisation, plausible explanations, and forged documents, she maintained her cover. These moments highlight the delicate balance agents had to strike between creativity and caution. A single misstep could have exposed the network, jeopardized D-Day, and cost countless lives. Female operatives also encountered unique challenges. Elise Varley, coordinating multiple sub-agent reports, once received conflicting German intelligence queries that threatened to reveal inconsistencies in her narratives. She quickly reconciled the discrepancies by inventing minor operational setbacks and adjusting the timelines of her fictitious agents, maintaining the credibility of the entire system. The work required not only intelligence and quick thinking but also remarkable psychological resilience, as each transmission carried life or death stakes for both themselves and Allied forces. Post-D-Day, agents continued to manage German perceptions, reinforcing the illusion that Normandy was only a diversion. Reports of phantom troop movements, staged reinforcements, and fake operational mishaps maintained German uncertainty and delayed their redeployment. The system's dynamic nature allowed it to adapt in real time, responding to German reconnaissance and unexpected developments while keeping the Allies' true operations concealed. This combination of improvisation, coordination, and psychological insight was unprecedented in wartime intelligence. The post-war recognition of double-cross agents varied. Juan Pujol García eventually received international acclaim, being honored by Britain and Spain for his extraordinary contributions. Roman Czerniawski, despite significant risk and dedication, remained relatively unknown for decades, his heroic actions documented only in classified records. Female operatives like Elise Varley and Madeleine Demerment, critical to the network's success, often remained unsung in public histories. Only later did historians and intelligence scholars uncover the full scope of their contributions, highlighting the courage, creativity, and resilience required to execute the deception flawlessly. The legacy of the double-cross system endures as a testament to the power of information and perception in warfare. The network demonstrated that carefully managed intelligence could decisively influence enemy decisions, saving thousands of lives and shaping the course of the Second World War. Agents became master storytellers, psychologists, and strategists, weaving layers of truth and fabrication to manipulate one of the most formidable military powers in history. Their stories reveal a hidden battlefield, where letters, radio messages, and staged observations were as lethal and decisive as guns, tanks, or bombs. In essence, the double-cross system exemplified the principle that knowledge and perception can be as powerful as physical force. It showcased how meticulous planning, human ingenuity, and psychological insight can create an operational advantage far beyond the numerical or technological capabilities of an army. The bravery of the agents, their capacity for improvisation under extreme pressure, and the strategic brilliance of MI5's coordination collectively turned deception into a weapon of war. D-Day's success, facilitated by this invisible battlefield of intelligence, remains a defining moment in military history, illustrating that courage, creativity, and cunning can alter the course of events and save countless lives. June 7, 1944 began with a tense morning at MI5 headquarters. The day after D-Day, the network of double agents shifted focus from pre-invasion deception to post-invasion reinforcement, ensuring that German command remained convinced that Normandy was only a diversion. Juan Pujol García, Garbo, transmitted a radio message describing supposed troop landings in southeastern England, complete with fabricated reports of armored divisions, engineer battalions, and logistical convoys preparing for a massive assault on Pas-de-Calais. Each sub-agent report included minute details, weather conditions, vehicle markings, and even minor injuries to fictitious soldiers, crafted to appear authentic. Meanwhile, Roman Czerniawski, Brutus, provided supporting transmissions that reported reconnaissance flights over northern France, suggesting that Allied forces were consolidating in Normandy only to launch a subsequent, larger attack elsewhere. MI5 officers coordinated the timing of these messages, ensuring that each report aligned with Garbo's communications and the broader Fortitude South plan. Female operatives like Elise Varley meticulously monitored German radio feedback, noting troop movements that confirmed the deception was effective. Divisions remained concentrated in Pas-de-Calais, hesitant to reinforce Normandy. On June 8, the human element of espionage became starkly visible. Garbo's fictitious sub-agent report had supposedly been captured by German patrols. The Germans demanded confirmation, creating a near crisis for MI5 and Garbo. Rather than risk exposure, Garbo crafted an elaborate narrative. The agent had escaped, altered mission plans due to bad weather, and reported new intelligence from a safe location. This improvisation, approved by MI5, not only maintained credibility but also reinforced the Germans' perception of an active, dangerous, and far-reaching Allied intelligence network. June 9 saw increased scrutiny from German intelligence. Reports from multiple double agents were cross-referenced by the Germans, who were trying to detect inconsistencies. MI5 responded by issuing carefully calibrated instructions. Minor contradictions were reframed as errors due to sub-agent miscommunication, and new observations were generated to cover gaps. The skillful handling of these situations exemplified the network's psychological sophistication. Not only were false reports believable, but even mistakes were strategically used to reinforce authenticity. On June 10, a close call occurred when German reconnaissance aircraft observed real troop movements near Normandy. MI5 quickly coordinated with Garbo and Brutus to craft explanations that integrated these observations into the false narrative. The flights were described as misreported exercises intended to distract German observers, preserving the illusion that the main attack remained at Pas-de-Calais. Such rapid improvisation highlighted the agent's ingenuity and the network's adaptability under extreme pressure. By June 11, the sustained deception had caused measurable confusion in German command. Orders intercepted by MI5 revealed that significant divisions were still stationed at Pas-de-Calais, and that high-ranking officers remained uncertain about Allied intentions. The double-cross system had successfully created a multi-layered illusion in the minds of enemy commanders, demonstrating that carefully managed information could act as a decisive strategic tool. The post-war fates of the agents varied widely. Juan Pujol García initially lived quietly in Venezuela before returning to Spain, where he eventually received honors from the British government for his extraordinary work. Roman Czerniawski returned to Poland, later contributing to post-war intelligence services but remaining relatively obscure publicly. Female operatives, such as Elise Varley and Madeleine Damerment, often returned to civilian life with little recognition, their bravery and skill documented only in MI5 archives for decades. Yet their contributions were critical. Without their coordination, oversight, and ingenuity, the deception network could have collapsed under scrutiny, potentially altering the course of D-Day and the subsequent liberation of Western Europe. The final phase of the double-cross system involved gradual disengagement and post-invasion monitoring. Agents continued transmitting reports suggesting ongoing troop movements and planned operations in northern France, ensuring German forces remained cautious and dispersed. MI5 analyzed these reports to determine when it was safe to reduce deception activities, carefully phasing out transmissions to avoid arousing suspicion. The operation demonstrated unparalleled foresight, combining strategic patience with real-time improvisation. The legacy of the double-cross system endures as one of the most sophisticated and successful counterintelligence operations in history. Its agents demonstrated that cunning, creativity, and psychological insight could shape the battlefield as profoundly as any tank, ship, or artillery battery. By orchestrating a seamless blend of truth, fabrication, and improvisation, MI5 created a network that misled the German command, saved thousands of lives, and contributed decisively to the success of D-Day. The stories of these agents, both men and women, reveal a hidden battlefield where intellect, courage, and subtlety determined the outcome of history. June 12, 1944 marked a continuation of the Allies' carefully orchestrated deception. While real troops pushed inland from the Normandy beaches, the double-cross agents maintained an intricate web of false reports to mislead the German command. Garbo transmitted updates describing the progress of armored divisions in southeastern England, claiming that preparations for a second major landing at Pas-de-Calais were underway. MI5 ensured that each message included minor details, movement of trucks, visible training exercises, and even fictitious logistical challenges, to enhance credibility. German intelligence intercepted the transmissions and responded by keeping divisions stationed in the wrong locations, delaying reinforcement to Normandy. On June 13, Roman Czerniawski, Brutus, focused on creating the impression of reconnaissance operations along the northern coast of France. He reported sightings of amphibious exercises, dummy artillery placements, and large-scale troop movements, all fabricated but laced with verifiable elements, such as actual weather conditions or known small-scale maneuvers. Female operatives, including Elise Varley, cross-checked previous transmissions, ensuring that all narratives were consistent and internally coherent. This meticulous attention to detail made the deception extraordinarily difficult for German analysts to unravel. By June 14, tension reached a critical point. German intelligence requested clarification regarding the movement of several armored regiments that Garbo had previously reported. This presented a near crisis. Any inconsistency could expose months of careful planning. Garbo and MI5 quickly improvised an explanation, stating that the units had been delayed due to mechanical failures and adverse weather, and were now on a revised schedule. This improvisation was consistent with earlier reports, maintaining the illusion of a dynamic, active intelligence network. June 15 highlighted the psychological sophistication of the operation. Agents began reporting that the supposed main assault in Pas-de-Calais had been temporarily postponed due to logistical issues, creating a sense of anticipation among German commanders. Simultaneously, MI5 staged dummy troop movements, inflatable tanks, and controlled reconnaissance sightings to reinforce these reports visually. The Germans, interpreting the information as credible, maintained their positions in Pas-de-Calais, leaving Normandy forces less opposed and allowing Allied commanders to consolidate gains and expand the beachhead. On June 16 to 18, Garbo and Brutus coordinated multiple messages describing troop rotations, supposed naval landings, and fake supply convoys. The messages were intentionally staggered to appear independent, creating the illusion of multiple active intelligence sources. MI5 carefully monitored intercepted German communications, noting repeated references to Pas-de-Calais as the anticipated invasion site. The agent's ability to maintain consistency across multiple channels demonstrated both psychological acumen and remarkable organizational skill. A particularly close call occurred on June 19, when German reconnaissance flights over southern England observed real Allied movements that could contradict the false narrative. MI5 immediately advised Garbo to incorporate these observations into his reports. The flights were described as misreported exercises and minor diversions. By rapidly adapting to unexpected events, the agents preserved the credibility of the entire network. Such improvisations required creativity, quick thinking, and an intimate understanding of German expectations and psychology. In the post-D-Day weeks, the double-cross agents continued to shape German perceptions, reporting fictitious troop deployments, staged exercises, and fake intelligence leaks. These reports ensured that German forces remained cautious, dispersed, and uncertain about Allied intentions. By keeping the enemy off balance, the network contributed directly to the success of the broader Normandy campaign, saving countless lives and allowing the Allies to maintain momentum. Post-war, the long-term impact of these agents became clearer. Juan Pujol García returned to Spain and was honored by the British government for his extraordinary contributions, while Czerniawski returned to Poland and continued to work in intelligence, albeit in relative obscurity. Female operatives, such as Elise Varley and Madeleine Demerment, often received little public recognition despite their vital roles in coordination, monitoring, and improvisation. Their stories, preserved in MI5 archives and historical accounts, illustrate the critical importance of discipline, creativity, and courage in intelligence operations. The legacy of the double-cross system remains profound. It demonstrated that strategic deception, psychological insight, and meticulous planning could decisively influence the course of military operations. By creating a web of believable false information, MI5 agents manipulated German decision-making, delayed reinforcements, and protected Allied forces during one of the most critical campaigns of the Second World War. Their work exemplifies the principle that perception can be as powerful as firepower, and that intelligence operations, when executed with precision and ingenuity, can shape the course of history. July 1, 1944 began with MI5 analyzing the effects of the initial D-Day deception. German forces remained dispersed across northern France and the Pas-de-Calais region, largely convinced that a second, larger invasion was imminent. Garbo transmitted updates describing supposed Allied reinforcements arriving in southern England, reporting staged troop movements and dummy equipment deployments. MI5 ensured these transmissions coincided with visible cues. Inflatable tanks were placed in fields, smoke generators simulated construction, and controlled observations were arranged to be noticed by German reconnaissance. The result was continued misallocation of German forces, directly benefiting the Allied advance in Normandy. On July 5, Roman Czerniawski, Brutus, coordinated additional false intelligence, reporting reconnaissance flights and minor skirmishes in northern France. These reports included small truths, such as minor artillery exercises, to lend authenticity to the narrative. MI5 officers adjusted details in real time, ensuring that German intelligence could not detect inconsistencies. Female operatives like Elise Varley monitored these transmissions, noting that German units continued to hesitate, verifying the ongoing effectiveness of the deception network. By July 10, a near crisis emerged when German communications suggested that officers were beginning to question the authenticity of reports from southern England. Garbo quickly adapted, sending a carefully constructed transmission claiming that a sub-agent had uncovered a German counterintelligence effort and that operational plans had been modified accordingly. This improvisation maintained credibility while reinforcing the perception of an extensive Allied spy network, demonstrating the agent's remarkable creativity under pressure. Throughout mid-July, multiple agents, including lesser-known operatives, maintained overlapping narratives of troop movements, fake amphibious exercises, and staged fortifications. These layered reports created a multi-dimensional illusion for German command, making it difficult to distinguish truth from fabrication. MI5 carefully coordinated these messages, ensuring timing, content, and corroborating visual cues remained consistent across all channels. Even minor discrepancies were reframed as miscommunication or weather-related observation errors, preserving the overall strategic deception. By late July, German commanders remained committed to defending Pas-de-Calais, keeping significant divisions away from Normandy. This misallocation was crucial. Allied forces were consolidating gains, expanding beachheads, and pushing inland with fewer casualties than anticipated. The sustained deception exemplified the strategic value of perception management, where intelligence and storytelling influenced battlefield outcomes as decisively as artillery and tanks. August 1 to 15, 1944 saw the continued success of the double-cross system. Garbo and Brutus transmitted reports describing supposed reinforcements, logistic challenges, and minor engagements in northern France and southern England. MI5 staged additional dummy operations, including inflatable vehicles, staged encampments, and controlled observation by local volunteers. German High Command, interpreting these reports as credible, delayed redeployment of units, giving the Allies critical operational freedom. Female operatives maintained the flow of corroborating details, ensuring internal consistency and realism across multiple transmissions. During this period, the network faced intermittent crises requiring improvisation. Agents had to explain real troop movements, unexpected reconnaissance, and minor errors in reporting. Each incident was transformed into plausible narrative elements, maintaining credibility while preserving operational security. These moments illustrate the adaptability and resourcefulness that defined the double-cross system. Intelligence was a living, dynamic process, responsive to both enemy behavior and unforeseen events. By late August 1944, the Allied advance through France was well underway. The effectiveness of the double-cross deception had directly contributed to operational success, reducing casualties, delaying German reinforcements, and enabling strategic flexibility. The post-war fates of agents varied. Juan Pujol García received international honors, Roman Czerniawski continued his work in intelligence, and female operatives like Elise Varley and Madeleine Damerment returned to civilian life, largely unrecognized but celebrated within MI5. Lesser-known agents, who had risked their lives in minor but critical roles, were often forgotten publicly, though their contributions were essential to the network's success. The overarching legacy of the double-cross system is profound. By combining psychological insight, meticulous planning, improvisation, and human ingenuity, a relatively small network of agents influenced the deployment decisions of one of the most powerful armies in history. Letters, radio messages, staged visual cues, and fictitious narratives became as decisive as guns, tanks, or aircraft. The system exemplified how intelligence operations could shape strategic outcomes, save lives, and alter the course of war. In reflecting on the post-war years, historians and intelligence scholars have emphasized the enduring lessons of the double-cross system. Perception, when carefully managed, can be a weapon as lethal as conventional force. Human creativity and courage are as critical as firepower, and meticulously orchestrated deception can decisively influence events on a scale far beyond the apparent size or strength of the operatives involved. The personal stories of the agents, full of courage, ingenuity, and improvisation, reveal a hidden battlefield where intellect, discipline, and subtlety determined the fate of nations. Juan Pujol García, a Spanish-born agent, was the cornerstone of the double-cross system. Operating from Lisbon and later London, Garbo managed an extensive fictitious network of sub-agents, reportedly numbering over 27, all entirely imaginary. Each day, he meticulously crafted radio transmissions describing troop movements, supply logistics, and supposed reconnaissance operations. Garbo's genius lay in blending truth with fabrication. Minor verifiable details, such as weather reports or small coastal movements, were mixed with completely false intelligence to create highly credible messages. During the final week before D-Day, Garbo's transmissions reported armored divisions moving toward southeastern England, reinforcing the illusion of a Pas-de-Calais invasion. He often faced urgent requests from Berlin for verification. In one instance, German officers demanded clarification on the location of an armored regiment. Garbo improvised an elaborate narrative, explaining sub-agent miscommunication and mechanical delays, preserving the credibility of the network. Post-war, Garbo moved to Venezuela to avoid attention and later returned to Spain, eventually being honored by the British government for his extraordinary contributions. Roman Czerniawski, a Polish officer, managed intelligence reports from occupied France and London. His role was to provide corroborative messages that supported Garbo's narratives while appearing independent. Czerniawski's transmissions included reconnaissance flights, fictitious engagements, and reports from sub-agents describing troop movements. He excelled at timing reports to enhance believability, ensuring that multiple sources in different regions confirmed the same false intelligence. During June 1944, Czerniawski's updates described fake amphibious exercises and minor skirmishes, reinforcing German perceptions that Normandy was a diversion. He coordinated closely with MI5 officers, adapting quickly when unexpected reconnaissance flights or intercepted German communications threatened to expose inconsistencies. After the war, Czerniawski returned to Poland, contributing to intelligence operations but largely remaining obscure to the public, despite his critical role in one of the most successful counterintelligence campaigns in history. Elise Varley, a British-born female operative, coordinated the flow of information from fictitious sub-agents across northern England. Her responsibilities included drafting detailed reports, monitoring German reactions, and ensuring consistency across multiple transmissions. Varley was instrumental in verifying minor details and adjusting narratives to maintain credibility, particularly when German inquiries created potential contradictions. Her work exemplified the psychological sophistication of the double-cross system. By monitoring German responses and providing real-time adjustments, she ensured that the deception remained coherent. Varley later returned to civilian life, largely unrecognized publicly, though MI5 archives documented her critical contributions in maintaining the operational integrity of the network. Madeleine Damerment, a courier and communications specialist, operated primarily in occupied Europe. Her assignments included transmitting intelligence to MI5 and fabricating reports that misled German command about troop movements and invasion plans. Damerment faced extreme danger in the field. A single mistake could have led to capture or execution. She displayed remarkable improvisation, using forged documents and quick thinking to maintain her cover during interrogations or unexpected inspections. During June and July 1944, Damerment's reports helped maintain the illusion of ongoing Allied preparations in Pas-de-Calais, reinforcing German misallocation of forces. Post-war, she returned to civilian life with limited recognition but remained celebrated within MI5 for her bravery and skill. The double-cross system included dozens of minor operatives who each played specialized roles. Some monitored German communications to gauge the effectiveness of deception, others staged visual cues, such as dummy tanks, dummy aircraft, and fake encampments. Each minor agent contributed a crucial thread to the overall fabric of deception. Their daily activities included timing transmissions, verifying details, improvising explanations for discrepancies, and coordinating with other operatives to maintain the illusion of a vast, active intelligence network. Even when not individually recognized post-war, these agents collectively shaped the battlefield. By July-August 1944, German forces remained hesitant to redeploy units from Pas-de-Calais, a testament to the sustained impact of coordinated false intelligence. The post-war fates of double-cross agents varied widely. Prominent figures like Garbo received international acclaim, while others, particularly women and minor operatives, remained largely unrecognized. Many returned to civilian life, their extraordinary wartime contributions known only within MI5. Their experiences highlighted the human dimensions of intelligence work, courage under pressure, rapid improvisation, meticulous attention to detail, and the psychological burden of maintaining false identities under constant threat. The collective legacy of these agents is enduring. The double-cross system demonstrated that information, perception, and psychological manipulation could decisively influence the course of war. Letters, radio messages, staged visual cues, and carefully constructed narratives were deployed as weapons, creating a hidden battlefield where intellect and creativity determined the fate of nations.